I'm Sean from Offload Rugby Media.
I'm Simeon from the TikTok Ref.
Guys, I'm Murray, also known as Blissful Rugby HQ.
And you're listening to the Rugby Connection podcast.
For the fans, by fans.
We have a special guest on today, Halde Pottinger. Thanks a million for coming on to the podcast. You're very welcome.
You're most welcome, guys. How is everybody feeling this evening?
Yeah, no, we're good, yeah.
I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm very good. How's you?
Doing well. It's a sun that's a bit disappointed. My whole day was geared around Scotland Day v England Day. That's one. And then I put Channel 4 on, and an episode of Come Dine With Me is showing. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? But I got cancelled, unfortunately. But apart from that, can't complain too much.
Yeah.
As you can tell, for the viewers on YouTube, we have an extra special guest tonight because somebody just won't go to sleep. It's going to be a lot of chopping and changing. I'm just going to hold that because I don't.
To be fair, he'll probably make more sense than us anyway. So.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, after some of the big calls we gave last week.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, Halde, I'll kick us off with the first question. So, how did you first get involved into rugby?
All right, wow, that's a cool question. Well, that was back when I was about 5 years old, so that's going back a few years now. I think it's just how everybody else kind of gets into it. I mean, I come from a rugby playing family. I had an older brother playing rugby, my father played rugby and all that sort of things. It's just one of those clubs that maybe your parents take you to get you out the house and out of their feet and all that sort of stuff. So I went along to mini rugby and things like that. Up in Caithness, I grew up in the very north of Scotland. So a place called Thurso, Caithness. So that's where I did my mini rugby. I just kind of carried on from that. But I remember, I had a question about this the other day, and I remember when I really got into rugby, and it was in 1995. Because I used to play rugby minis and things like that, but I wouldn't really watch it and stuff. I think most kids at that age, international rugby, especially for Scotland in 1993 and 1994, is quite boring. But when 1995 hit and the World Cup in South Africa, which just took on the whole world, didn't it? Then after that, I was like, yeah, shit, this is a sport for me. And I never really looked back.
Great stuff, yeah. Lads, do you have a question?
I've got one. So, Halde, I actually started following you long before I started doing rugby videos, and you always did a lot of history on Scotland, especially. Yeah. And I'm a big history fan as well, so that's why I followed you. And then it wasn't until you followed me back that I realised you were a rugby fan.
Cool.
So I'm going to try and put two and two together, and get a question for you. So, who would you say is the best player of each decade? We'll go from the 70s till now.
That's a great question. I love that question. From world rugby or Scottish rugby?
You can do both.
I don't know. We could go. How long we got tonight, guys? We'll go with Scotland. I mean, 70s. I believe I know. I was born in 1984.
Right.
But obviously, the Scotland, that was a fantastic year for Scotland. It's a Grand Slam year for Scotland, 1984.
Yeah.
70s, I think you would have to look at the names that you kind of look in the archives and the histories and things like that. So you're obviously going to stop. Obviously, Ian McGeechan was back playing in the 70s too, but you're going to kind of start and stop with Andy Irvine as your kind of main 70s guys. In the 80s, I was just maybe starting to get a wee interest in rugby like that. I liked, obviously, you had Rory Laidlaw. So
yeah.
You had, the Calder brothers and things like that, the Milnes. But I think John Rutherford, I think he was one of these kind of new players, a new mould of a player, actually kind of developing a bit of a magician, if you like, at stand-up.
Yeah.
90s, that was I don't know. I think you go for no Gregor Townsend. What am I saying? It's going to be great. I was going to think about Big Gav, Gavin Hastings at fullback. He was a big hero of mine growing up. But then when Gregor Townsend came in, a different mould, and I think he was probably one of the first professional amateurs, if that makes sense. One of the first kind of new breed of players that were coming about in that era. Townsend was fantastic. Again, look at the 97 Lions tour when Townsend was in there at standoff, just fantastic. The noughties, again, a bit of a barren year for Scotland. I like Jason White. Jason White was a big leader, but there you got Chris Patterson as well.
Yes, yes.
You've got to go for Mossy, don't you? Really, because I think he was unlucky not to get. I think he was a bit underrated actually because he did play in a team. I'm not going to say a poor team because everybody that reaches an international standard are fantastic. Nobody's saying they're bad players, but it was quite a grim rebuilding process for Scottish rugby and the noughties. Let's go for Chris Patterson, and then where are we going in the teens? So many new players come out there. We haven't even mentioned the likes of Alan Tate or Doddy Weir or Tom Smith and all these sorts.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Which is criminal in a sense. And there was a player that he only played a few times, a centre called Tom Phillip. There was a flanker called Donny McFadden. They both had a few cuts for Scotland, young players. Again, this new breed that were coming through, but both of their injuries were cut short. Their careers rather were cut short with injuries. But with the noughties, some of your best players. I like Ewan Murray. You know, Ewan Murray was again one of these players that was like, you know, he was very he had a lot of onus on his faith. He wouldn't play on a Sunday, and you know you kind of got a bit of respect for that guy. But you know, as a tight head prop, he was always in about. You know, he was quite a religious guy, faithful guy. But on the other hand, he was a bit of a ruffian as well that liked to get about the scraps and stuff like that. Hello.
Somebody's voicing his opinion on that one.
2020, 2021, you've got to go with Hamish Watson, don't you? You just have to.
I can't argue with that one at all.
That's an excellent question. I like that question, Laura. It's good.
I love the fact that you said for the noughties, Chris Patterson. Like, if you've ever watched the show, Chris Patterson is my absolute idol. He's my hero. He's the reason I play rugby.
He was record point scorer for that long, wasn't he? For in World Rugby and you know, cap holder and all that sort of stuff. No, he was a fantastic servant for Scotland. He never played a bad game for Scotland. You know, I think Sean Lamont, I think he was underrated that played in that sort of team. But Chris Patterson never played a bad game for Scotland.
Well said, Halde. Well said. Simon, I believe you've got a question.
Yes. So my question to you is: after that game against Japan for the Lions this weekend, how do you see the Lions playing on throughout the tour and going into the Test series?
The Japan Lions game, to be honest, I think the score almost flattered the Lions. I don't feel as confident now as I did before the Japan. I don't get me wrong. I know there's obviously going to be teething problems, but you remember that's a Japanese team that hasn't played together since 2019. Yes, they've had their domestic season rocking and things like that, but a lot of their players play Super Rugby and things like that. So logistically, Japan had a harder task to get all their players together and sent over to the other side of the world. I think a couple of their players were actually playing last weekend in the Super Rugby for the Highlanders, and then they were on the bench for the match yesterday. It's opened up quite a lot of questions, and it's funny, I do not feel as confident moving forward as I did before. But then again, this happened before when we played Japan, or no, it was the Barbarians, wasn't it?
The Maori Barbarians, wasn't it, or something?
And everyone's going like, shit, you know, this isn't looking good. There were a few good individual performances, and you can see what the team's trying to do, but it just wasn't gelling. It didn't gel as quickly as I thought it might have been, and they have had an extra week of training, whether it's because there has been disruption with COVID and there has been disruption with obviously the English Premiership, those boys not being released and all that kind of things, and there's people coming in and out of camps and stuff like that. Obviously, you got Steve Tandy, defence coach. We talk about the defence. He's got a way that he wants to play. And they were obviously, when Japan were coming with the ball and coming into contact, a lot of the times the line wasn't too bad, defensive line wasn't too bad, but they kept on trying to hold the player up to obviously get a turnover in the maul. But they kept on doing that every single time. I would have liked to see them maybe chop them down the first 6, 7, 8 phases, and then when they're starting to get tired, then you go in there and hold them up in the maul. But it was relatively effective. They did get about 4 or 5 turnovers from that tactic. But again, we're not going to be playing Japan next month and things like that. We're going to be playing South Africa. And are we going to be able to hold up the likes of, you know, Etzebeth and all these sorts of players? No. So yesterday's the tactics was there to beat Japan, which we did. I would have liked to have seen them maybe use tactics that they would bring forward to South Africa, if that makes sense. Attacking wise, we didn't boss the game. We should have taken control, settled it down, and just played. Chosen the right options, create the space, and worked it that way. We were frantic for a lot of the occasions for some reason, which we didn't have to be. we're playing Japan, who are elusive, they're free runners, they're entertaining to watch. But you want to match that with proper Warren Gatland rugby, to be honest. You know, ball under the jersey and just roll it forward, kick territorially. And I don't think we did that a lot yesterday. I would have liked to have seen different combinations as well. But it's obviously, and one big sort of major point, I think, was the kind of lack of leadership, I thought. And obviously, well, Alwyn Jones coming off in 7 minutes, and the sad crack is that he's not going to be on the tour. But you did see that, and nothing against Ken Owens. I know that he was then the captain, but you didn't really see him speaking much. And again, it's not nothing bad against Ken Owens. I thought he played very well overall. But you did see a lack of leadership when Alwyn Jones came off. And with Conor Murray now stepping in, is he going to be as loud and as effective and as boisterous and as, you know, follow me, boys, into the fray? I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. No, South Africa or the Lions are definitely going to have to match South Africa and their physicality. You're definitely right there anyway. I was just going to ask you, what was your favorite ever rugby moment? Be it personally you watching a game or being at a game, have you a favorite moment that you pick out from all your time being involved in rugby?
Well, the first time I was at my first game at Murrayfield was Scotland against Wales. I don't know if you guys remember it or see it through the archives or things like that. It was actually Eric Peters, number 8, scored the try. But the ball landed back in under 22, and it went through loads of different hands. Donny Weir went to Kenny Logan, who ran it up, tackled, and then Eric Peters scored. That's probably my earliest big rugby memory. Obviously, it's funny how Wales were involved, but Scott Gibbs scoring that try in 1999 against England, which not only gave Wales the win, but it gave Scotland the last ever Five Nations Championship. That was a very, very cool moment. But talking about modern times, it's hard to go past 2018 Scotland v England.
What a game.
What a game.
Exactly. And you guys are all, you know, as purists, you know, not supporting any camp, you guys are saying it was a game. It was a game for the rugby fanatic and for both sides. And, you know, entertainment value, the 38-38 game was all right as well the following year, but 2018, yeah, because Scotland had been building up to that time, and finally we got to a place like, yes, Scotland can now maybe do something. And obviously you got the tries of Finn Russell, Hugh Jones was the Hugh Jones that we know, and yeah, it's going to be hard pushed to press that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well said. I mean, for that 2018 game, I mean, I could vouch for that. I was there. I was at Murrayfield.
Oh, nice, cool.
And it was quite funny because it was at the time I wasn't the biggest Finn Russell fan. He would always do something magic, and then 3 or 4 things that just wouldn't work, and I was getting really frustrated watching him play. I understood why he was still getting started and all that. He was still a phenomenal player. But at that time, I was like, you'll see him do something. Oh, like, why are you doing that? Like, this isn't Racing. This isn't the time to do it. And it was right before it. You could see it in his eyes. He was going for the big looping pass for Hugh Jones. And I seen it. I was like, no, Finn, don't do it. And it just dipped over Jonathan Joseph. And Hugh Jones was going. I was like, no, scratch that. On you go, Finn. You know what you're doing. Well done, son. So
he actually then comes back round and actually gives the pass to Sean Maitland to actually go over in the corner as well. It was just, I don't know who got man of the match now. It had to be Finn Russell. Surely he got man of the match in that game, just for that pass alone.
I don't think it was Finn. I think
No,
it was something really weird.
No, didn't Hugh
Like
Jones get
could have been
got them because of the try? He scored because when he split the.
Aye, and that was fantastic as well.
And then obviously that big run that we're on about there. I think it might have been Hugh Jones. I want to say, just to throw a name out there as well, I think Stuart McAnally might have been man of the match. I think he did it right.
I'm pretty sure it was a forward. I think everyone was like, "It's going to be Hugh," and I'm certain it was a forward.
Yeah. Well, I think you could give it to any Scotland player that day.
John Barkley, and then winning Turner, John Barkley, Hamish Watson. What a back row!
Yeah, exactly.
Turning the balls over all the time.
I've got a question for you, Halde. It just came to me there now, just when we're talking about all the different players that you've seen play when you're growing up and all that. Who would you say in your lifetime has been the best Scotland captain?
That's again, it's an interesting one because who, like let's say like the All Blacks just now, right? and I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but it must be the easiest job to captain the All Blacks. Fair, you got all the pressure on you, and all. Yeah, you probably that wouldn't be great to live with. But actually, on the park, being an All Black captain, that must be the easiest job yet, because you've got so many leaders, so many incredible players there. So I think if to actually look at a captain and the qualities, you need to possibly look at the times when they've had to actually grind out, and they've gone through the bad times, they've gone through things, and they've kind of led. In my lifetime, we obviously had Gavin Hastings as a big captain, Jason White, Chris Patterson. I think you're going to be hard pressed to go past Greg Laidlaw, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he was amazing. He's probably my favourite scrum half of all time, Greg Laidlaw. I loved watching him.
Yeah, and the problem with Greg, and I hated it, but a lot of people didn't rate him very much because you had Ali Price coming through, then you had George Horn coming through, zippier, younger players, and everyone was always like, oh, why aren't they playing? Why aren't they playing? Well, it's because we're there to tactically win the match. We're not there to score loads of tries. That could be the tactic for another match. We're there to grind out a win. And Greg Laidlaw, there would be nobody who knew the game better than Greg Laidlaw. Tactically and strategically, nobody would have known it better. And he did lead by the example. He spoke well. So that's another good question. But I think I need to go for Greg Laidlaw. Stuart Hogg, I like the player, the captain Stuart Hogg might become. I quite like him. He sort of leads by example again on the field and does his talking well. But yeah, in the modern sort of era, yeah, Greg Laidlaw.
Nice choice, Halde. I'll rate that. I mean, I can't complain. I loved Greg Laidlaw, start to finish. It was sad to see him retire, but it's one of those things. It's like in every team, in every sport, comes a day where one of the good ones retires or just whatever. But yeah, I think an underrated one for me personally was actually John Barclay, because he had the task of like filling the void of Greg Laidlaw when Greg. Yeah. I think it was when Greg first got hurt initially, and then John Barclay was just like the one-off captain, but then it just kind of stuck around.
Was John Barclay, was he captain of the Scarlets when he was there?
He was when Ken was injured when they won the Pro 4 and Pro 12, the last Pro 12. He was captain. I remember that game well, yeah.
Yeah, and then he came to Edinburgh. He was captain there for a while too. But again, it took him almost a year before he really got playing for Edinburgh because he came with injuries and things like that. And I remember when he was at Scarlets, he had like that 3-4 year barren period when he just couldn't get into the Scotland team at all. But no, John Barclay, he was another guy. That's the sort of player you would follow into the nether regions or whatever.
Yeah,
just get behind him.
100%. Another question from me, and obviously got to do a bit of a refereeing one. What do you feel the biggest issue with modern refereeing is, from like a completely neutral perspective? Because I'll always be biased towards the refs, but where do you feel the biggest issue is?
To be honest, I'm not one for. I think a lot of people say there's loads of laws coming in, and TMOs and VARs or what you want to call them. But I don't mind that. I quite like that. I would rather see a fair match than not. So I think that's all part of the. That's all part of the not the showmanship of the game. It's all. I think it's a plus point when like a try's been scored, and the ref goes, and the guy's about to run up to do his kick, and then the ref goes, hang on. And you're like, oh, what's happened now? And then it goes into the cameras and says, oh, he smacked him in the face and things like that. That's all part of the. I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I love. I think it builds the show. Like if you think from like a TV show, it's like, there's more drama. You've got to analyze it, don't you?
And referees, they are becoming. They're not trying to, but they are becoming almost figures themselves. Like almost like names that and things like that. I think something that World Rugby maybe needs to get a hold on is the offside line. We see it time and time again. Just the consistency, you see it time and time again. Every back line is offside. Every back line is offside completely. I mean, you look at like what was his name again? Sean Wales one. He's now with France.
Oh, Sean Edwards. Yeah,
Sean Edwards. I forgot his surname. Sean Edwards. He thrived on that. And you see the Irish, they're very good at the back line as well. You see them, they come up, they're very clever because they're all like one line, they do it like one goal, so you don't really notice. And that's the key. If you're all doing it And it's hard to say, right, all 6 of you are all offside, sort of thing like that. But I don't know how you can come in. I don't know how you can fix that other than get laser beams on the side. But then again, you'd be blowing your whistle every single breakdown. And again,
Exactly.
with rugby, you could theoretically blow your whistle at every single thing that happens and say something. So I think it's a really hard job that World Rugby comes and the referees have. But I think learning more and developing more, that's only going to get better and better because the game's going to get faster. And I do like a lot of people are giving World Rugby and referees a hard time about yellow cards and red cards. Like, there might be accidentally a shoulder into the head, or getting themselves stuck under the tackle. But then again, it's up to the players to not put themselves in that position in the first place.
Exactly.
And that's why that's there. That's to teach. I teach kids rugby, and that's what you have to teach them. Don't give anyone an excuse to put yourself in that position where you can be yellow carded or red carded, because at the end of the day, you could seriously hurt somebody. And touch wood, will we see a death happen in an international game because the players are going to be getting harder and harder, bigger and bigger, and more physical and physical? So we have to watch it. So I'm all for as much referee involvement as possible, because they're there to make the game flow. They're there to add the entertainment value to it. And I think you can't really give them too much to heart.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I know I'm coming through up the system myself, and I see it. It's not robot reffing. It's reffing with, I can't think what the word is, but giving leeway to things which you need to give.
It's like a question sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Refs are becoming names now. I mean, Nigel Owens obviously started that, really, but it's great. I personally, I like to see that a lot more these days, and I think it is going in the right direction for safety as long as we start. I mean, we had no red cards this weekend, which was good.
Yeah,
we had no red cards for the first time in ages.
Yeah.
Just when you were on about referee recognition, becoming household names. Just a little fun one. Simeon actually changed his TikTok handle to the TikTok ref because he got recognised in public. So there you go.
Yeah.
Do I hear the worst thing I've seen? I was playing a game in Edinburgh, and there was a boy came on as a substitute, and he was a Maori boy. He was big and heavy and strong. But he came on and he flew into a ruck really illegally and just completely kiboshed the thing. Penalty. He did exactly the same thing for the next one. Penalty and a warning. He did exactly the same thing at the next one. And he got a yellow card. And honestly, he went right up to the ref's face like that. And he was remonstrating with him instead of shouting at him. And I was just over there, probably picking myself up off the floor or something. And I looked, and the guy spat in the referee's face.
Oh.
And everybody, even his own teammates, were just like, what? And the referee blew the whistle, said, match abandoned, awarded us the win. I think there's about 20 minutes to go. Awarded us the win. And then he says, right, I need that boy's details. He's never going to play a game of rugby in Scotland again.
He probably never did.
I probably never did, but we couldn't believe that. That's probably the most distressing thing I've seen a ref have to handle anyway. Imagine that.
Jeez.
I've been lucky enough not to have. I've had obviously the abuse and swearing, but that's bad.
I see that Tom Youngs, did he not get a 2-week ban for swearing at the ref or something like that?
Yeah, so he didn't swear. Well, how was it? He didn't swear directly at the ref was it Dylan Hartley did when he got that red in the Premiership final?
Fucking cheat. Sorry, I had to say it.
He did swear at it. He swore in a conversation with the ref towards the ref. So it was kind of not as serious as that Dylan Hartley thing, but it was serious enough that he got the 2-week ban, which I think was fair.
Yeah, you can't let that creep in. Christ,
no. Halde, I was just going to ask you, this one might put you on the spot a bit, but have you any funny rugby stories?
I'll be back.
There's one time we're talking about the Lions thing. I was over at the 2005 Lions tour, which wasn't the best. I mean, the crack was brilliant, but results-wise, not so much. But I was there, and so I was there as part of a tour group and fun group and things like that. And Martin Bayfield was one of the speakers. And Martin Bayfield was actually on the panel, like on the TV panels for the live broadcast on the New Zealand sports channels and things like that. So he was doing this thing pre-match for us, and then he had to quickly go to get to in the taxi to get to the studio for the live TV going across all New Zealand and the world. So he's there and he was speaking away, blah, 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 blah. And I was there with my mate who's English, and he's a big fan of Martin Bayfield, a quite shy guy. Well, he wasn't as drunk as I was, maybe, I don't know, but he said, can we get a photo of Martin Bayfield, get a photo of Martin Bayfield? So I said, yeah, let's do it. So I said, come on. So I walked up to Martin Bayfield, as he was saying bye-bye, and making his way to the exit. I said, Martin, great show, thanks very much. Is there any chance of getting a wee photo with you and my mate? And he goes, yeah, that's fine. But walk with me, because I need to get to this taxi because I'm heading to the shows. But walk with me and we'll get one at the door. So it's fine. So I just started following him. And my mate was just over there, just kind of watching this whole thing happen. I was following him, and I had a pint of lager in my hand, drinking away, following him like that. I kept on checking in with my mate, because he was the one with a camera, so just checking in with him. And as I looked that way, Martin Bayfield, who was walking in front of me, just came to an abrupt stop. But I didn't, because I was looking at my mate. And I went like that, look, and my whole pint went all down.
Oh, no.
The back of his suit, of his jacket, of his trousers, everything. And he turned around to me, and I was just like, oh, like that. I think I started trying to rub it down with my hand or something like that. And he looked at me, he looked me up and down, looked at us wearing a kilt, looked me in the eyes, just shook his head like that, and he just walked off.
No.
I felt like that small, which is quite, like a lot compared to Martin Bayfield,
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Tour, crack of stories. That's what New Zealand, the Lions tour is all about.
Absolutely. What stays on tour? What goes on tour stays on tour.
Stays on tour 100%.
Unless you watch a David Roll interview, because he just let all hang out on the interview.
I did that a couple of times too.
He was on about wine tasting, and then you could tell he was like fudging the details a little bit, because obviously don't want to get in like too much detail about it. But he was like, there was like one boy that got so drunk they were like sleeping in the cask of wine, like the barrel of wine and all that. I'm like, what? How do you get that drunk?
At a brewery, not brewery, whatever they're called, vineyard. That's how you get that drunk.
Yeah. But yeah, so you are a big history fan, aren't you, as well, Halde?
Yeah. Well, that's what I kind of started a rugby page, Hold the Tackle Bag, just for purely rugby sort of stuff. Yeah. And I kind of keep the kind of Halde Pottinger stuff to just general nonsense and rubbish.
Oh yeah, I've seen your little. I'm not going to go into too much details about it because that's political and we don't need that. But you just put a simple question out there, like should Scotland go independent and why? And it was just something simple.
I know.
I think it's great.
Yeah. I put one up the other day. Tom Stoltman, world's strongest man.
Yeah.
And I said, well done, Tom. You won world's Scottish strongest man. Well done. And then it became this massive political thing about independence and racism and things like that. And it's just nuts.
I've had a few things like that. Like I'll get asked combined 15 from like certain countries and this and that and the next thing. Or like there was one I did today, and it was like the best international team from the year 2000 to 2006. So I just started rattling off names, like they're all legends and all that. And it was like, on one wing, Doug Howlett of New Zealand, on the other wing, Jason Robinson of England, and at fullback, the whole reason I got into rugby, Chris Patterson from Scotland. And that's how I left it, and that was it.
You get savage.
And most folk are just like, yeah, cool, understand that, great squad, blah, blah, blah. And then there was just one like, no, get rid of Chris Patterson, move Jason Robinson to the back. Is it because he's Scottish? Well, let's be honest,
exactly.
People just freak out that. Like at the end of the day, it's the same with all our pages. It is just our opinion.
Yeah, of course it is.
Exactly. I don't get why people get so triggered half the time. I'll openly say these days, I'm Welsh. Of course, I'm going to be biased slightly towards Wales. Yeah. You're going to be biased towards England because you're English. I mean, I do take slight pleasure when English people come on my page and go, I also hate Owen Farrell. Those people make my day.
Yeah.
I think the funniest one I got in the past 24 hours, because obviously Alan Wynne-Jones is hurt, and it was like,
Let's not talk about this.
who
We don't need to talk about Adam and Jones.
sorry, Simeon. But I was like, who should replace him? Not as captain, just like as a second row. And I went, Johnny Gray. Oh, that's biased because you're Scottish. Well, it's not. Like, I could be English, I could be Italian. I still think Johnny Gray's the better option.
Did you guys watch the Exeter match yesterday?
Yes.
Bits of it.
So highlights, yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but Johnny Gray a couple of times had actually had to be told to calm down a little bit. And I just wonder if they were watching the match beforehand or watching a bit of it, and Johnny Gray seen Alwyn Jones go off, looking really bad with a wrist like that. I just wonder Johnny Gray thought, yes, I've got a chance here. And he went out like real blazing. And he played really well. He was a workhorse yesterday. But I don't know about... I don't think anybody really expected Adam Beard to be named as a second row or Simeon.
He is. I didn't. I personally, going from Welsh, I never really put him in my mix. But when it was announced, I was kind of like, logically, he's in more. And before people start going with James Ryan should stay in Ireland because he's captain. I think he should do that job in the summer. I don't think he should be on the line, and he's not in form. Adam Beard is probably on more form than James Ryan, is probably just behind Johnny Gray. But how Adam Beard plays, no one notices him because he doesn't score tries and he's not the biggest ball carrier, but his work rate off the ball, and particularly in the line out, he is a monster. And as someone put on my thing today, it's unlikely he'd start against South Africa or play in a test team, but he would be so good at disrupting South African ball. And I was like, that's a fair point. He was vital to Wales in that 2019 Six Nations, especially like against England when we just destroyed their line out. And I think that might have been part of it. And I think if you look deep into actually how Adam Beard plays, he fits the mould of this Lion squad. Yeah.
If you look at Alwyn Jones, he's a line-out second row. One of his top three things would be line-out, whilst a person like Courtney Laws, although he does do line-out, but you don't think of Courtney Laws and think lineouts. You look at Alwyn Jones and you do think lineouts. And when you've lost a guy who's lineouts, you need to replace that guy with somebody who's lineouts. And even Johnny Gray, what's he known for? It's his tackling and the consistency of his tackling. His tackling stats are just phenomenal. And yes, he will do the lineouts and things, but I don't even think he calls the lineouts at Exeter. You need a lineout guy to replace Alwyn Jones. Of course, I would have liked to see Johnny Gray go, of course, but I can understand why Adam Beard was placed there. And I think
it's like for like, isn't it?
It is, exactly. And I think maybe if a Courtney Laws got injured, or maybe even a Ian Henderson got injured, then maybe a Johnny Gray might be coming in because you still already got Alwyn Jones lineouts. I was the same like with Navidi and Tipuric. They're very, very similar players. And if going off form, I think obviously Tipuric had enough credit in the bank to get on the plane, but I'm quite pleased for Navidi. The only thing with Navidi is he is prone to getting hurt. Well, prone to putting himself around, giving 110%, throwing himself into everything. If you're throwing yourself into big South Africans, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't last the whole tour,
Do you know who Josh Navidi, sorry to interrupt, do you know who Josh Navidi actually reminds me of? Just that you've put that out there, Halde, and it's just made me click. Obviously, not as much injuries, or hopefully not as much injuries, but he kind of reminds me of David Denton.
Yeah,
David Denton put his body on the line every game for Scotland and for Edinburgh, and then even for Bath when he moved down there.
And he's had to retire early because
he had to retire early. But
like Lewis Moody was a similar player as well. He would just get nailed after every single match. He'd almost need to be picked off the pitch because he was just broken.
The biggest one I think of that mould, Sam Warburton.
Yeah.
Oh, how many injuries has Sam Warburton had? I think he discussed it, and it was 8 nose fractures, 3 orbital fractures. I'm like, mate, that's too many.
Yeah, but that's even like John Hardy. John Hardy, who's just announced his retirement. From professional rugby. He only got 16 caps for Scotland, but he'll go down as a big player because he just was brilliant 2050 World Cup. But anyway, he's 32, and he's saying that the biggest thing that he's looking forward to in retirement is not having to wake up feeling like he's been in a car crash or something.
Yeah.
After playing every game, and it's just incredible.
This sounds weird because I'm only 22 and I'm just getting back into like rugby. So this will be my first like senior crack at it.
Mhm.
When I stopped playing, when I got hurt when I was like 18, I think because obviously like you just said, like every week, full 80 minutes, like, or as most minutes as you can, obviously. And I think when I stopped playing, I think my body went, right, all of this hurts. Like I was in so much pain when I stopped playing, and it was just niggly things. Like obviously, like the big injury that stopped me from playing was obviously the big one. But like even after getting like medically clear, like there's a little bit of like my wrist clicks a little bit, and like stuff like that. I'm like, did I take that much hits when I played?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it makes you think I dread to think what David Denton's brain or John Hardy's body or even Sam Warburton or that matters is like, because it's frightening what damage can be done in such a like short period of like time. Like it's only 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And 80 minutes like in a full day is nothing.
You just wonder what they're going to be like when they reach 50 or something,
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. Well, one big thing over the weekend, I think, or the biggest surprise for me certainly was Conor Murray being named captain of the tour.
I don't think it was actually, when I seen it, I kind of sat back and, okay, but I wasn't like, this is outrageous sort of thing. I was like,
no, it wasn't outrageous. No.
Yeah.
It was just strange.
There's people coming to me like, it shouldn't have been Conor Murray. It shouldn't have been Owen Farrell. It shouldn't have been Stuart Hogg. It should have been Maro Itoje. I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was like, the reason I'm not saying Maro Itoje for now, like Maro Itoje will probably be the Lions captain in 2025, providing he's still like on form and healthy and all that. But he's going to be in that mix anyway.
He'll be in the mix, yeah.
But I was just like, the only thing that's stopping him right now is his discipline and the fact that if you go back to 2017, he was looking after Bill. He was the youngest member of that squad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And to go from youngest member to captain, so that's a big jump, let alone being on like the team in 4 years. To go from like youngest to captain is a big marching order for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And like there was another one, and like I think Tom Curry's name came up because he's been captain for Sale and has done, in my opinion, a great job. But it's like Maro told you, I mean, Tom Curry is only 22 years old.
Yeah,
which is frightening when you think about it. But he is going to be the England captain, in my opinion. Once Owen Farrell hangs up the boots, I think Tom Curry is going to be the next like long tenure England captain.
Quite possibly, yeah.
I think with captain for the Lions, I think you almost have to have somebody who's going to be a nailed-on test starter.
Yeah,
maybe that's an old way to think or something like that. But you're going to be a tour captain who's going to be speaking for your team, speaking at events and leading at the training sessions and leading and going to the captain's meetings and senior players' meetings. And you almost think that player's going to be a test starter. The match on Saturday, Conor Murray, I really got annoyed at Jamie Heaslip. He was commentating. He must be the most biased, or he must be Conor Murray's best pal. I don't know if you heard it, Sean, or not, but there was a bit where Conor Murray, it was a really good break. Conor Murray went off by himself for the base for ruck, got isolated, turned over, and he blamed Ken Owens for not supporting him.
Don't blame my Ken.
There was another bit where Conor Murray, when Japan nearly scored a try first, a charge down, Conor Murray's kick, charge down, he blamed this, saying that there was no, pillars there to stop the kick. Well, if there's no pillars there, tell them. Say, oh, it's you, come here, be my pillar. That's all you have to do. And obviously, he got absolutely skinned by Mashimida, the winger. I thought he had a pretty poor game, and even his passing was behind. Now, I don't know if he's played for that long, and he will probably get better, and he does obviously bring a lot more experience. But I wouldn't have had Conor Murray as a test starter.
No, and he kicked it out on the full.
He kicked out on the full. That's another thing. But then the commentators are saying, "Oh, who's done themselves well?" And the kid was saying, "Oh," and they said that Leo Williams had a storm of a game. I didn't even realise he was playing it until he knocked the ball on, going over for that try. But yes, and the comments just said, "Oh, Conor Murray. Oh, it's Conor Murray's jersey to lose." I was like, "Really? Did you just watch the same match as I watched?" I don't know who you go for. I always agree with you, Murray, but I do think I told you it might be a good captain to. I think you need a rough, ready, physical.
I'd go Ken or Henderson.
Henderson might be a good shout. Yeah.
No, I meant I told you for 2025. I don't mean for now.
I would have had him maybe even tour captain. At the start of the Six Nations, I had him as tour captain. I think lots of people did. And Alan Jones obviously played extremely well and played himself into that position, and nobody can really argue that point.
Yeah,
I'll be surprised if Conor Murray has the number 9 shirt come the first test.
Yeah, agreed. Unless he shows form.
Of course, absolutely, exactly. Yeah. And that's what the games are there for. And again, nobody can argue with that's happening.
Yeah. Sean, you got any questions?
Yeah, what's the thoughts in Ireland about Conor Murray?
I actually wouldn't have brought him on his current form on the whole Lions squad. Like, I think he's a good player, but he hasn't really been in his best form since really 2018. Like, but he's a good player. But I wasn't. It was kind of like, will he even make the squad at first? I was kind of thinking like, I think he's a good player on his day, but on form, I didn't think he was too hot. Like, so yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Halde, you're definitely a passionate rugby fan through and through, and it's great to see like we are trying to get everyone, like all aspects of rugby, not just players, not just coaches, people like yourself. Like, you have a big following on TikTok, not just for your rugby, but for your history knowledge, for your just your general like patter.
General being.
General all Halde-ness, yeah. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on the show, and sorry for the delay. That's on me.
Thanks for having me. Anytime you want somebody up to have a chat or just talk crap about rugby, then just give me a shout.
I'm sure it's been great. Arrange that, definitely, yeah.
Well, it's then we'll spread the good word about what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. Yes, that you're obviously always welcome on the Rugby Connection podcast, because you're passionate. You live by like how our motto is, like, for the fans, by the fans, and I don't think you get much bigger passionate fans than you.
Nice.
From the sounds of it. So yeah, thanks a bunch, mate. And
pleasure,
obviously we'll all be like in contact. Like, we've been talking for a good few months now. So
yeah, and we'll do something again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, who knows? The pubs are open. I mean, you could have a drink. The other two might have to wait.
I'll be up in September. I'll be up soon enough.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks a million, Halde, for coming on, and listeners, I hope you enjoyed very much. Well, thanks everyone. See you.